What I find interesting about women right now is that they want a liberal man with conservative values. They want you to be a liberal man, but also uphold traditional patriarchal societal norms like protecting and providing. The issue with that is they're usually one or the other. As in A, they're liberal, and their mindset is, well, why should I pay all the bills if she works and I work? Why can't we be a team? I don't believe she should stay home and cook and clean. She can go work too. I can go work too. While the more conservative man goes, hey, it's my job to protect and provide. If she wants to stay home, she can. So girls want a liberal man, but also uphold traditional patriarchal norms.
At this point in our society, I think we can all agree that liberalism is responsible for the destruction of relationships, basically of the destruction of gender norms, really. Okay, it was liberalism that opened a pathway for feminism. It was liberalism that approved the idea that men and women were the same, and there wasn't much difference between genders. Look it up; it's in history. However, nowadays it doesn't really matter if it was liberalism or who the heck it was. It doesn't matter who it was, because those responsible for the damage are hiding and will not take accountability. Just take a look at our society. No one is being held accountable for anything anymore, you know? And so here we are in the aftermath of the problem. What is up, guys? It's your boy Andy Matrix. I'm back with another video. I'm back on the guys YouTube channel. If you have not heard of me, make sure to follow me on my channel, Andy Matrix Gaming, where I talk about anime, gaming, Japanese culture. Go ahead and follow me over there. Thank you very much. Click the link in the description to follow the link. And also, guys, check out Angry Guy on Rumble, because he's got some content over there that's not allowed on YouTube. So if you want to check out that, that exclusive content on Rumble, click the link in the description and follow the Angry Guy. And guys, the economy is in absolute shambles. The economy is the worst it has ever been in history, especially here in America. There's been millions of layoffs. There's people becoming homeless, living in their cars, living in their RVs. There's people that have to make up their own little business. Doing side gigs, getting into the gig economy, right, to be able to survive. And many people cannot find another job, and that's how it's going to be. And which is why Angry Guy created the Content Creator Academy, to teach you how to build an online business and build your own audience and create a digital product where you can start generating income and say goodbye to the 9-to-5. So check out the Content Creator Academy by Angry Guy. Click the link in the description below, and let's get started. All right, so check this out. Today we're going to be reacting to Remy Ren Daily. I guess we've actually reacted to some of her videos before, but we're back on it. And this video is talking about the generation of radicalized men. Generation of radicalized men, basically liberal woman asking for a masculine man, but they also want the men to be a liberal, to be liberal-minded, but take on masculine responsibilities. I tell you, it's like, dude, man, chicks don't know what the freak they want, man. Chicks don't know what they want, like, for real. They don't know what they want. They want Superman, but they want Superman to be nice and gentle. It's crazy. It doesn't make sense many times. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started and react to Ren. Let's see what she got to say. Here we go.
What I find interesting about women right now is that they want a liberal man with conservative values. They want you to be a liberal man, but also uphold traditional patriarchal societal norms like protecting and providing. The issue with that is they're usually one or the other. As in A, they're liberal, and their mindset is, well, why should I pay all the bills if she works and I work? Why can't we be a team? I don't believe she should stay home and cook and clean. She can go work too. I can go work too. While the more conservative man goes, hey, it's my job to protect and provide. If she wants to stay home, she can. So girls want a liberal man, but also uphold traditional patriarchal norms.
Yes, true. They also want a very masculine man that will please, that will give her a million orgasms in the bedroom and don't call her out on her bullshit. She wants a man that will do all those things for her and not hold her responsible, so that she won't have to be accountable for anything, right? It's kind of like a child. It's kind of like a child with this dream, right? Child with this fantasy, you know, dreaming of this world that doesn't really exist. You know what I mean? You know, I understand why. Who was it? I think it was Myron from Fresh and Fit that said that women are like children, and I'm starting to agree with that more and more. The more I learn, the more I agree. It's like they have this childlike mentality, you know, where like, and I think one of the reasons is because because they're not being held accountable for anything. It's almost as if they don't grow up, or they just kind of like pretend to be an adult, right? As to if you're a man, you're kind of like the Spartans, you're kind of thrown into the wild, right? And and expected to survive on your own. And that's why so many men, they tend to live by logic, because we have never been given the luxury of having no accountability. We fuck up, we got to be accountable for that. We don't have the luxury of not being accountable for things. The only men that I've seen that are not held accountable somewhat are basically like spoiled kids. Those spoiled kids. The guy that was raised by mom in a suburban household, probably had a lot of money, and the mom spoils his emotions, and he did not held accountable for anything. He does he does something messed up at school. The mom comes and defends him. Gets fired from work. The mom gives him money. It's like his emotions are spoiled. I've run into these people. I've run into like a few of these people growing up, especially in high school, a little bit after high school. I've seen these spoiled type of people that just grew up in the suburban area, well taken care of, and their emotions are very spoiled. They don't know what it's like what's the word? To experience hardships, you know. But yeah, and that's basically how the modern woman is. They talk crap about women from the 1950s, right? It's like, oh, those women were slaves. She was a slave in the 1950s. Okay, she was a slave, but she knew how to do more than you. She knew how to do more than you. Cooking, cleaning, taking care of the kids, doing all that shit. And some women actually had a business on the side. Or they would build a business with their husband. Something that, women don't want to do nowadays. They just want you to come in with the complete package. So it's absolutely ridiculous.
There is an obvious war on young men happening right now, and the objective of this war is to keep men and women divided so that we don't join together to create family units, because if there's one thing that the elites hate, it is a strong family unit. And if I'm being completely honest, I don't see this problem getting better until women, myself included, take responsibility for the hand that we've had in radicalizing men.
Yeah, and she's absolutely right, because women are the ones that give birth, right? They're the ones that bear the children. Men are the farmers. We plant the seeds, and they are Mother Earth. They're supposed to sprout the sprout fruit, give fruit, right? This is like Bible terminology here, but yeah, she's absolutely right. Because it was feminism that started the idea that they don't need men. So now the only people that can reverse that is the feminists themselves, women themselves. They gotta abandon this mentality and come to their senses. Otherwise, the birth rate is just gonna keep going down and down and down. And but something, I think at this point it's a little late, because even if they do come to their senses and we all kind of just like we all start to work together, the cost of living has become so high and so unfair that it's still difficult for people to have families, right? So unless we start to build, I don't know, especially in America, unless they start to build our own houses, or buy our own land, things like that, then it's still going to be difficult. It's still going to be difficult, because now a lot of these properties are being bought out by BlackRock and other big companies. Corporations are owning the real estate. So I think we'll reach the point where, like, even if feminism goes backwards, and if women come to their senses, we're still going to be faced with a lot of challenges that could have been avoided if men and women had been working together for the longest time. Things that we could have been avoided, that could have been avoided if feminism never took place in the first place, right?
If you're a man, you've heard this before. Men are being radicalized. Young men are falling into extremism. The manosphere is brainwashing boys. And maybe you felt it. That low hum of accusation everywhere you go, like you're guilty of something you never did. Like you woke up one day and the world decided you were the problem. But here's what no one is telling you. The data says something completely different. And I think once we look at it together, a lot of things are going to start making sense. Let's start with something that should be headline news, but somehow it isn't. According to Gallup, not a podcast, not a YouTuber, Gallup, women aged 18 to 29 are now 15 percentage point more likely to identify as liberal than men the same age. That gap, it's 5 times larger than it was in 2000. Now, here's where it gets interesting. When researchers tracked this over decades, they found something nobody in mainstream media wants to say out loud. Increased liberalism since 1990 has occurred much more strongly among women, while men's views have been steadier. That's not just my opinion, that's Gallup.
Okay, so she said that the manosphere is ruining boys, is ruining men, right? That it's been like what, uh, brainwashing us, or like what the heck? What did she say? Yeah, that the manosphere is like damaging men, right? Well, no, because the manosphere or red pill and MGTOW is actually helping boys. It's saving boys. And look, as a Christian man, my advice is always, first of all, get close to Jesus Christ, right? Go to Jesus first. Go to Jesus Christ first. That's the first thing you should do, and then look for the red pill and the MGTOW. That's what you should do, because what red pill and MGTOW does, it just tells you the truth. It just tells you the truth and tells you to be careful, because a lot of men want to get married. A lot of men do want to get married. But we can't just tell boys, oh yeah, just go ahead and do it. No, we tell them, hey, look, the law is against you. Okay, they're all trying to take your money. And many women have one foot behind the door, or one foot out the door, right? Meaning that they're already planning their divorce before they start. That's how it is. They plan their divorce before they get married, right? So so they're already preparing and planning for the marriage to fail. That's just how it is in America, in Western countries, right? So we tell boys the truth. We tell men the truth, you know. And a lot of guys don't really come into the MGTOW and red pill space until they get divorced. Me personally, one of the ways that I got red pill, and I'm not a MGTOW. I just got red pill, and it was early in my early 20s when I started reading books about dating, like David D'Angelo's, what's it, W You're Dating by David D'Angelo, and also things like Think and Grow Rich. That's how I started, right? And that's basically why I've been avoiding marriage for a long time, especially in America. And I kept saying, dude, I gotta find a way, because I don't want to get married in America. I gotta get married somewhere else. That's what I wanted. That was my plan. And if it wasn't for the red pill, I probably would have gotten into some relationship, signed a contract, or the girl would have put me on child support, and I'll be paying child support like crazy, and be broke or homeless in the streets. So it does help. It does help. However, I will say that there are some dudes out there that they ruin everything. They they go they go really dark. They become really dark, and it kind of gives us a bad name. I can't really, think of anybody from the top of my head. I know some of the passport bros have, given us a bad name. But overall, the red pill and MGTOW, they try to help you. They try to warn men, hey, this is how it is. This is what's going to happen. You know, be careful with your choices. Otherwise, you're going to get abused by the system. And 9 times out of 10, that is exactly what happens. Men get abused by the system. And that's why these things have become so popular. And that's why the red pill and MGTOW, have not died. It hasn't died. It's still going strong, bro. It's still going strong. And guys, not only is dating absolutely horrible in today's world, but also the economy is in shambles. The economy has been going down for some time. There's been millions of layoffs, guys, and a lot of people are becoming homeless, living in RVs, going back home to live with their parents. The economy is really collapsing if it hasn't already. And pretty soon we're gonna have a banking crisis soon. But the banks are gonna be holding your money back. So we gotta really prepare for this as much as we can. And people are gonna have to find ways to make money outside of their job. So a lot of people are gonna have to fend for themselves. And this is why the angry guy created the Content Creator Academy, just gonna show you how to build an audience online like he did, and create a digital product to start earning a living, and say goodbye to the 9 to 5 and be independent. Have some independence. So guys, click the link in the description. Check out the Content Creator Academy. You get a free guide once you do. And I'll see you on the other side. And let's go ahead and continue on with the video.
That's Pew. That's the Survey Center on American Life. In 2010, roughly 30% of young women identified as liberal. By 2021, 44%, a 14-point jump in a single decade. Young men in that same period, 27% to 25%, basically flat. So here's what I keep coming back to. If men stayed roughly where they were and women moved dramatically in one direction, why is every cultural institution telling us that men are the one that changed? I don't think the answer is conspiracy. I think it's simpler. Blaming men is easy. Questioning the system that shaped those women, that's harder.
Young men, particularly white young men, are being groomed and radicalized for extreme organizations. But I would contend there is a radicalization happening from the manosphere.
Here's what I think is actually happening beneath the noise. Young men have become radical. Most of them are holding positions their father held, their grandfather held, positions that 20 years ago were just called normal. But here's the thing about a moving target. If you stand still while everything around you shifts, suddenly you look like the one that moved. The Brookings Institution put it bluntly. Young women have become significantly more liberal and embraced anti-patriarchal values in the past decade, while young men have stayed relatively the same. So when someone says men are being radicalized by the manosphere, I think it's worth asking, radicalized from what? To what? Because according to every major polling organization, men largely believe what men have always believed. They want to work, they want to provide, they want families, they want respect. Is that radical or is that just human? And if it's human, what does it mean that an entire generation was told that it was a problem?
Like I said before, men, we know our position in life. Okay, men just naturally know their position in life. Okay, we know that we're supposed to be providers. We know that we're supposed to be protectors. Okay, we just know. Okay, and like she said, we haven't really changed. This is why God put us in charge. This is why from the beginning of time in the Garden of Eden, God created man first. Adam was created to manage the earth, right? To manage the earth. And then Eve was created, right? The mother of men. So men have always followed traditional gender roles, even if we're not like exactly consistent, even if we're not consistent with it, even if we're not like really good at it, we still believe that this is the way it goes. We know when we're wrong. A lot of dudes know when they mess up, when they fuck up, when they when they're not good enough to do something. We know, because us guys, we tend to be stubborn. We tend to be we tend to be stubborn, egoistic, but we know our place. We know our place. The world of men is hierarchical. There's always a hierarchy. Okay, the world of men is in order. It has always been in order, similar to God, right? Similar to God. If you read the Bible, God is very hierarchical. In heaven, the angels, the God and the angels, they all have a hierarchy. It's in order. There's order, right? But women tend to be more chaotic. I mean, as you can see, like she said it herself. women tend to be more liberal. And liberalism, it just says do whatever you want. And I don't believe that you can just do whatever you want. I think everything has a pattern. Everything has some type of order. If you want it to be in harmony with nature, right? So men have not changed. It is women that have changed. It is women that keep changing their minds and pretending that they have more freedom when really everything that they have is because, men created it. And I'm not saying this to be arrogant or anything, but that's just the truth. They want to pretend like they can live without men, but in reality, they can't. Because you don't hear men saying, "Oh, well, we can live without women." Like, we know that we can survive alone in the wild by ourselves, but we don't say, "Oh, we don't need no women." You don't hear men saying that shit. We don't tell that to our mom. We don't tell that to our freaking sister. We don't tell that to our grandma and shit, our families, our wives. "Oh, I don't need you." No. When was the last time you heard that? Like, for real, on the internet, anywhere.
They've grown up in a country that has systematically, in law, excluded them from the workplace, from education, from federal grants, and has told them again and again and again, no, we're not discriminating against you, and yes, you deserve it. Imagine growing up like that. And again, this isn't behind the scenes. This is way out in the open.
Today, 47% of women aged 25 to 34 have a bachelor's degree. For men, 37%. Among 2024 graduates, 69.5% of women enrolled in college, compared to just 55.4% of men. Women aren't just attending college more. They're spending more formative years inside institutions that reward a specific worldview. Career-first identity, delayed family formation, skepticism of tradition. And it's not subtle. In 2019, the American Psychological Association released guidelines calling traditional masculinity, stoicism, competitiveness, achievement, psychologically harmful. When I first read that, I thought, no wonder men stop trusting these institutions. You don't get to pathologize someone's nature and then act surprised when they tune you out. One guy in my comments put it simply, I'm a young man struggling to find my place, and everyone keeps telling me my instincts are the problem. He's not radicalized. He's just paying attention. So what happens when a system incentivizes one half of the population away from the other?
Why do you think that young men go to Andrew Tate? Right? And look, I'm not trying to defend Andrew Tate in any way. Honestly, Andrew Tate, I understand why people follow him, but I don't necessarily look up to the guy. I understand why young boys follow Andrew Tate. And it's because of this shit. You go into society, you're 18 years old, going into your 20s, you go into society. You're trying to find your place in the world, right? You're trying to find your place in the world. I'm a man. What am I supposed to do? What do I want to do? And this and that. And then you got the fucking liberal America telling you, well, your instinct is the problem because you're thinking too much like a man. But I am a man. And the problem is there's no space for young men to be masculine in America. In Western society. There really isn't. There's no space, and a lot of our spaces have been taken away, like video games, movies, and a lot of our franchises have been feminized. If you look at everything from Marvel, a lot of the old movies, Star Wars, all of that have been feminized. They take they take a female lead and they make the male characters look like idiots, and make the female characters look like total superheroes. They flip them. It's the same problem that happened with Stranger Things season 5 recently. Yeah. So if you're a boy, society doesn't like you, and a lot of young boys, they start to realize that, like, yo, what's going on here? They start to realize early on. That they start to realize, like, this is a women-driven society, and I and I better watch what I say, because I cannot be myself, essentially. But society wants you to look like a man. They want you to have a six pack and look like a man and all that, be strong. But they don't want you to be masculine. However, but the women are allowed to be masculine. Women are allowed to be masculine. Men are not allowed to be masculine. Okay? That's where we are now. That's where we are.
Men go on TikTok and what do they see? They hear women saying, if you're not tall, rich, and hot, get out of my face. They see women doxing men online just for, sending them a DM on Instagram. They see women saying, men used to go to war, now they just take pictures. They see all of this, and it just reinforces this idea that society hates them and that women hate them. I don't know about you, but I would also not want to partake in a society that makes me feel that way.
This is where I want to slow down, because this isn't about scoring points. This is about real people, men and women living inside of something that isn't working for either of them. Fertility. The U.S. fertility rate just hit an all-time low, 1.6 children per woman. Replacement level is 2.1. That's not a political talking point. That's a civilization warning light. According to AEI, there are only 0.6 single liberal men for each single liberal woman, and only 0.5 single conservative women for each conservative man. Half of ideologically committed singles can't find their match that shares the same value, not because love is hard, but because the system sorted them onto different teams before they even met. I want to be careful here because I'm not interested in dunking on anyone.
And this is even a bigger reason to get out of the country, to leave America, get out of Canada, get out of the UK. Take your dollars, take your euros, and go somewhere else. Because as she said, it's like matchmaking's become more and more difficult. Like Western countries, the way that they're being run, the way they're being built with the cost of living and everything, these leaders, they know what they're supposed to do. They just don't want to do it. Okay, they just don't want to do it. There's not enough breathing space for people to have a family, for people to have children, for people to do this, for people to do that. There's not enough breathing space. You understand what I mean? There's not enough breathing room. There's not enough breathing room, and also, if a person cannot afford something as simple as a $700 apartment, if there's no affordable apartments that somebody can just move to as a single person, like in Japan, and be able to afford it while working at a day job, a regular job, then there's no hope, right? There's no hope. People are not going to have hope for the future. People are not going to have hope in upward mobility, right? And I've talked about this. The cost of living is one of the main problems, but also the division between the genders, because everybody's like being divided into is the man versus women, red versus blue, liberal versus conservative, right? Liberal versus conservative. There's it's just division, left and right division, right? But I think people will still be motivated to reproduce, to have children, despite of the division. Despite of the division between the two, right? Because let's say, for example, if we had affordable living like in Japan, or like somebody could work at a ramen shop, or at a restaurant for $12 an hour, and they can get an apartment for $500, $700. It will work. People will reproduce because they know they can afford it. It's like, okay, well, I can afford my own apartment. All I gotta do is just push up a little more so that I can afford, something a little bigger for me and the kids and the wife. Right? But we don't have that. There's just so many things in our society has been broken that people are just giving up. And really, the best choice, the best thing to do is to leave. Grab your dollars, grab your euros, and get the hell up out of the country.
The Institute for Family Studies found that 37% of conservative women report being completely satisfied with life. For liberal women, 12%. Nearly 1 in 3 liberal women aged 18 to 40 reported feeling lonely multiple times per week. For conservative women, 11%. One woman in my comment, someone who used to identify as a leftist, put it this way: There's no worldview that encourages self-loathing, catastrophic thinking like leftism does. You're constantly deprived of agency through oppression narratives. You'll never be good enough. I don't share that to say, told you so. I share it because I think she's describing something real, something a lot of people are quietly living through. An entire generation was told family was a trap, that men are threats, that careers is identity, that institution will protect them.
This is one of the saddest things. This is one of the saddest things. And look, I get it. Like many of us, we were not born and raised in the most caring family, in the best family. Some of our families are very dysfunctional. I get it. But the fact that so many people believe that, having family is gonna draw you back, or having a spouse is gonna hold you back, and this and that is gonna hold you back, right? It's like people like America, like the education system, well, not the education system, more specifically, liberalism has taught an entire, a couple of generations, millennials and Gen Zs. Liberalism has taught them that, that having these things, a family, a spouse, these things are going to hold you back. So just focus on yourself. It's all about you. We're being taught to be absolutely selfish, and we're being taught to be alone. I don't think this is normal. And look, I'm saying this as an introverted guy, okay? In the Myers-Briggs personality type, I'm an INTJ, right? I'm an INTJ. I'm supposed to be like one of the most rarest personality types on the planet. INTJ, right? But and look, I spend my time alone. I like I like playing my video games, do these videos. I like spending time alone. Especially when it comes to being creative, for creativity, I love spending time alone to get my work done. But I do not believe, or I don't want to live a life where I have no friends, no family. I just go to work, come home, go to work, come home, go to work, come home, go to work, come home. I don't want to live that life. I want a social life. I want to hang out with people. I want to talk. I want to laugh. It's so we are being taught to be alone in Western society. Individualism has hurt America so badly. And we wonder why we are here. We wonder why so many Americans don't speak to their neighbor. So many Americans don't know their neighbors. It's true. So many Americans don't talk to their neighbor. They don't say shit. It's like we are a country of just anti-socialism. So this has to change. This has to change. We need a new philosophy. We need a new belief, a new way to be social. We have to change the mentality of the people. Telling them that, telling them that having a family or a spouse is gonna hold you back. It's ridiculous. If we teach them these things, you can't complain why the birth rate is declining and why people don't want to have children.
And now, many are lonely, exhausted, wondering why the freedom they were promised feels so much like isolation. That's not a punchline, that's a tragedy.
I don't think being single is going to 100% wholeheartedly make anyone happy. There's women out here who are screaming at the top of their lungs that, oh my God, I'm so happy being single. No, you're not. You are not happy being single in your home, alone, by yourself, with no companionship, nobody there to make sure that you're okay, nobody there to talk to at the end of the night, nobody there to make sure the doors and the windows are locked. You are not happy. You are not. And you're delusional if you think you are. Nobody is going to be happy being single. Maybe in your early years, but as you progress in life and you get a little older, you're not going to be happy being single. It's okay to find yourself for a little while, but don't sit there and try and be alone for the rest of your life.
Both sides got sold a bad map, and both sides are wondering. Now, here's where I have to be honest. Some people look at this situation and say, fine, burn it down. Don't marry, don't commit, don't care. I get why that's tempting. When you've been told you're the problem for long enough, walking away feels like the only power you have left.
Because it is the only power we have left. It is the only power we have left. What else are we supposed to do? What else are we supposed to do when we continue to, whatever we do, we're not allowed to be ourselves. You're not allowed to be a man. You're not allowed to be yourself. What else are we to do when even our own entertainment, the things that we consume, is being bombarded with these things, with the same messaging, with the same stupid message? What else are we to do? Why do you think the passport bros exist? When women are looking for something that they have a 5% chance of finding, what else are we supposed to do? Walking away is the solution, is the only solution, is the only rational solution at this point. When you're dealing with we're dealing with a society with so many delusional women, what else are you supposed to do? It's every man for himself now. It's everybody for themselves. Nobody's working together. This isn't the 1950s. Hey, this isn't the 1980s. Men are walking away for peace of mind. Plain and simple.
But I don't think that's the answer. Because here's what I've noticed. The people preaching detachment, they're not happy either. They've just traded one kind of emptiness for another one. And the system that created this mess, they want you to give up. Isolated people are easier to manage. Lonely people spend time on subscription, dating apps, content that numbs instead of building. Disconnected people don't create anything that threatens the machine. Walking away isn't rebellion. It's exactly what they expected. So where does that leave us? I don't have a 10-step plan. I'm suspicious of anyone who does. But I think there are a few things worth noticing. First, systems built on lies are expensive. They require constant maintenance, constant propaganda. The truth? Truth just waits. The same women who were told to delay motherhood are now quietly Googling fertility options at 38. Same institution that called masculinity toxic are publishing articles asking, where have all the good men went? They weren't exactly where you told them to go, away. Second, something is already shifting. Church attendance among young adults has seen its first uptake in decades. Google searches for traditional marriage and meaning are climbing.
And the young men are going to do exactly what the older men are doing. They're going to go MGTOW. They're going to go MGTOW. Just naturally, this is going to happen. And I know a lot of people, keep talking smack about MGTOW. They keep talking smack about, the red pill and the passport bros and all this stuff. They talk crap about us. But the reason why we do this is because this is the only option we have. This is the only option we have. When you oppress a certain group of people, they're going to rise up. They're going to rise up. And the young men that she was talking about, they're going to go MGTOW. If they stay in America, they're going to go MGTOW. Right? Because a lot of these young men, they've been consuming a lot of red pill content, a lot of MGTOW content, right? And they're learning from the older men what to do, what not to do, how to avoid being abused by the system. How to avoid being abused by the system, right? And eventually, they're gonna follow the same path, and a lot of them are just gonna become, passport bros. America is just gonna be this unbeneficial country, this unbeneficial, place. They will see no benefits. They're just being oppressed in their own country. What other choice are they going to have? So they're gonna do exactly as the older men are doing.
A majority of Gen Z now say modern dating culture is broken. That's not nostalgia. That's people waking up. Third, men aren't rejecting women. And women, most of them aren't rejecting men either. While both sides are rejecting, slowly is the ideological system that got between them. Maybe what's collapsing isn't relationships. Maybe it's a bad software. Here's what I want you to hear. especially if you're a guy who's been told for years that you've been the problem. You're not failing. The system is. You're not broken for wanting a family. You're not toxic for wanting to provide. You're not radicalized for noticing that the rules changed without your consent. The data is clear. Men haven't moved. The culture moved around them. But here's the hope. Human nature doesn't need to be reinvented. It just needs to be remembered. The question isn't, will things change? They already are. The question is whether you'll be part of what comes next. If this landed, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment.
And there you have it. As so many men are walking away, America and Western countries, they're just going to be left with, they're just going to be left with just a whole bunch of single women that nobody wants. A whole bunch of single ladies that nobody wants. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. The future is really not looking so good. Like, it's really not looking so good. Like, this is getting to the point where, like, a lot of the books that we read, a lot of the dystopian books we read are now becoming reality. I read, if you guys ever read Ready Player One, have you guys ever read Ready Player One? If you did, leave a comment below and let me know. Well, Ready Player One is basically about this kid who lives in the year 2040, which we're not so far away from that. Excuse me, guys. In the year 2040, a lot of Americans are living in these things called the stacks, right? The stacks, which is basically kind of like mobile homes, just stacked on top of each other because the world has gotten so populated and there's a lot of crisis. There's like the energy crisis, the food crisis, and homeless crisis. And the main characters living in these stacks, right? In these these stacked homes. Right. And that's what it reminds me of. And then, the way that he finds employment is in the virtual world. Right. He just gets into the virtual, puts on his headset, goes into the virtual world. And that's where he finds his that's where he lives his life. He lives his life in a fake world. And what are the elites pushing? They're pushing artificial intelligence, robots. And Mark Zuckerberg has been pushing virtual reality for some time now. Yeah. He's been pushing virtual reality for some time. Yeah, so a lot of these dystopian novels are becoming a reality. But hey, whatever your thoughts are, comment below, like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell for future notifications. Guys, it's your boy Andy Matrix. Godspeed, baby. Yeah.